And a good morning, Eagle Nation. You got a Thursday edition of Birds 365 coming your way here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel with the Mac and Mac Bros. Key of Thursday being we're now exactly 5 weeks away from the NFL draft. Kicks off on a Thursday night. Day 2 is Friday, and then they clean up the rest of their stuff over the weekend. It's still 5 weeks. Doesn't it feel like it's about 5 days away, Johnny Mac, or is that just wishful thinking on my part?
I'm way behind on the draft, so not for me. Okay. Because the Eagles made
you need those full 5 weeks, huh?
The Eagles made such a significant run. I mean, typically that's when reporters like us, we gear up for the draft. Other teams, you got plenty of time. You start to look at players, but you make that deep run and you're like, woof, stuff goes quick, man. But, that's good.
I didn't get a chance to see. I was busy yesterday during the day, the pro day at Ohio State, but I saw the highlights thereafter. I'm telling you, I'm going to be proven right. From before the season ever started, I said C.J. Stroud is the best quarterback in this year's draft. And if he is not taken number one by the Carolina Panthers, they will have made a mistake. But that's just me. But that does not affect the Eagles at all because they already have their quarterback. The question is, when will they get that contract done? And that's something we'll be talking about for the next 5 weeks. Plus, it's going to go past the draft as well. But Stroud did look good, but there were some other Ohio State guys, especially on the offensive line, that could absolutely.
I like how you describe pro day highlights, Jody. Like, what are we learning at pro day?
There are no lowlights at the pro day. Is that what you're trying to tell me, Johnny?
My favorite pro day of all time is probably is there was such hype over Johnny Manziel's pro day. Remember that thing? He's throwing over brooms. Oh, look at him throw over the broom. I'm like, what are we doing here? I mean, I'm CJ Stroud's going to be the number one pick. That's pretty obvious. I mean, Carolina's trending in that direction, and we'll see if he develops into a superstar quarterback. He's got a lot of talent. I have no issues with your thought process of him should being the number one overall pick because, look, I'm a little concerned. I think it's right to be concerned over the size of Bryce Young. You can look at Kyler Murray and say, there's some limitations there, and that guy's ridiculously athletic, but there's still some limitations when you're that small playing that position. So I agree with you on Stroud being number one overall, but not because of anything that happened at that pro day. I'll tell you that.
Johnny Mac, he moved the needle yesterday. I agree with your general sentiment that pro days are overrated, and good luck trying to find some since they're controlled and the player gets
the scripted throws. I did see who scripted it. Was it? Did you see who scripted the throws? I forget.
No,
I'll look it up. There are certain guys. John Beck's one of them that script the throws, for the pro days, and I did see who scripted CJ's throws, but I got to look it up now.
He's got the goods, and yes, if you're an Eagle fan, you'd prefer if you believe that there's. And again, I start evaluating these guys before the year ever starts, and I've always said that it's a 2 quarterback draft, and then there's a drop off. Even though the drop off in the actual draft could be negligible, could be the next 2 picks. Quarterbacks could go 1, 2, 3, 4. Good luck to 3 and 4. They are not as good as 1 and 2, even though you're right. Young is a little undersized. We've seen the undersized guys like Russell Wilson make it big time in the NFL. So I think Young's going to be really good too, just not as good as Stroud. I don't feel nearly as confident about either Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. But like I said, we got 5 weeks to get there. And the only effect they truly have on the Eagles, and it's almost become a non-effect, is that a month ago, 2 months ago, while the season was just ending up, there was a question as to how many quarterbacks were going to go in the draft in the first 9 picks. Would it be 4, which would mean only 5 other players would be drafted, which would mean the Eagles would get, theoretically, the 6th best non-quarterback player? Well, that's going to be the case because the 4 quarterbacks are all going in the top the 9 picks. They may go in the first 4 or 5 picks. So the Eagles will get the player that they're supposed to get. Again, we're doing speculation on this now, and it's probably a little premature since we're 5 weeks out. You don't think there's any chance that Howie Roseman's going to trade up, do you? Do you think there'll be a player in that group? You and I talked yesterday. You talked extensively about groups, and the Eagles have groups, players in groups, and it changes from year to year. And they may target, let's get one of these guys. You don't think they're going to move up, do you? I think it's much.
I do not think they're going to move up. I think it's much more likely if they do anything, they're going to go down. They want to add some mid-round picks. I look at that. Who would that player be to move up for? I just don't see the huge difference. I mean they've sort of staked their claim at cornerback for the next 2 seasons at least. Doesn't mean they couldn't take a cornerback because we know Howie and luxury picks, and he's going to take who he thinks the best player. But if they like one of the cornerbacks, if they like one of the edge rushers, one of the defensive tackles, but I can't see them moving up. And Bijan Robinson, my buddy Ed Kratz is desperately trying to get him Bijan Robinson. It's just not going to happen, people. Stop it. Unless he starts balling, and then you can have a conversation, but not at 10, and they're certainly not going up to get a running back. So yeah, I would say it's much more likely that they go down than up in the draft. But hey, you always leave that one sliver of a door open that they fall so completely in love with a player that they need this particular player. And again, it's way too early in the process. Haven't even heard many whispers. Last year I had a good feel for Jordan Davis. Had a real good feel for Jordan Davis. Real good feel for Cam Jurgens. I picked them both in my mock draft, first round, second round. And it wasn't by accident. It was, those mock drafts when I do them later in the process.
The key there being later. If you do it later, you've got better information. You got a better chance to get it right. Oh, and guess what? You got them right.
Yeah, and my mock drafts aren't what I would do. It's what I think the Eagles will do. That's how I kind of do it, because who the hell cares who I want? Ultimately, it's about who that team wants. And you get a better feel, later in the process. I haven't heard many whispers other than, the typical offensive defensive line. I mean, that's the Eagles, and they believe in it, and that part of it's true.
And I'm a big mock draft fan, have been for 25 years. But I try and keep it in its proper perspective. Some people see a mock draft. Oh, the Eagles are taking this guy. No, they're not. That's just one man's opinion. 2.5 months ahead of time. It's just for conversational purposes and debate. It doesn't mean or lock the Eagles into anything and anything, John. And I say 5 weeks out, and we are 5 weeks out from the draft officially today, is just that, a quasi-educated opinion that means nothing, because a lot can change between now and the draft. All right, something did change in the NFL yesterday, at least the possibility thereof. I asked you on Monday here on the show, is there any chance of a return of the Green Goblin to Philadelphia? We've seen a lot of guys leave this year via free agency. We've seen a couple very good Eagles retained, a couple of new additions that John's had a chance to talk to. They've been introduced to the Philadelphia media. I want to get his take on that in a second. But the one thing we haven't seen is an old hand coming back, because the Eagles have done that before, brought back guys who had been here and left and give them another shot, a second run. And when Jalen Mills was released by the Patriots, made some sense to at least debate and think about how he would fit in returning safety, a position of need for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that didn't happen. 4 days later, much like Darius Slay. In Jalen's case, he actually got released and was on the open market for a couple of days, but ended up renegotiating and re-signing with the New England Patriots, who have said they're planning on moving him to safety, which is where he would have played for the Eagles. And he come back here. He's been playing corner the last several years for the Patriots. Did the Eagles miss out on the return of the Green Goblin?
I don't think it would have been a bad signing if they signed him. But, he got probably too much money on his restructure for what they're, if you look at Justin Evans, and I haven't seen his contract, but I'm going to guarantee it's for the minimum or maybe a little bit more. With Jalen, he can make up to $6 million. So there's a pretty big difference from the money standpoint. But he knows how to play. Very smart player, good leader. The Eagles know that. That's that's important. Not it's not the first thing in line, but it's something nice that you always like to have a good locker room guy. And he's got that safety corner versatility they like as well. They really like players like that. Evans has that. He played in the slot last year with the Saints. They always look for those players, those mirrored players, as Jonathan Gannon used to call them. Avante can do it. CJ could do it. And Jalen can do that as well. Yeah, he's one of those guys though that I always say, Jody, I can't figure out. There's certain guys the fan base loves, and if you say even one constructive criticism, go even down, take a step down that path, they will jump down your throat. Oh, this guy's great. This guy's great. This guy's great. And then there's certain players, it's the opposite. And Jalen's one of those players. A lot of Eagles fans didn't like him. And I have no idea why. Because
I know why. I told you the other day, during his time here in Philadelphia, Jalen gave up some really ugly touchdowns. He'd bite on a ball fake,
double move,
come in, double move. Guy gets behind him. You see him chasing from behind, 10 yards behind the wide receiver as he coasts into the end zone. And those indelibly get locked into the Eagles fans' mind. He's always beat. He's always getting burned over the top. He's too big a chance taker. Well, they look past the interceptions that he got and the good passes he defended. The only thing they remember are the plays he got burnt on. And that's why I think some, you're right. It's not the full fan base, but some of the fan base.
Yeah, it's always a small.
Could not stand Jalen Mills.
It's always a small portion. But, I mean, as a 7th round pick, won a Super Bowl at corner. I mean, that these things should not be underrated. I'm by no stretch of the imagination was he a top tier corner, but by the time he got to free agency and left here, he turned himself into a pretty valuable player, which is why he got the contract he got. So he's one of I wouldn't have had any problem. He's still relatively young. I wouldn't have had any problem, but for the contract he got or could get, it's obviously we know the numbers. There's a lot of funny money this time around, but that's probably a little bit more expensive than the Eagles wanted to go for his standard of play.
All right, let me run one more guy by you who's in a similar type position. I think your answer will be the same. Yeah, just the money's a little bit too big. Who I think the Eagles may have missed out on yesterday, because there is, at least it's being espoused out there as a theory. I don't know. I would bet the Eagles don't buy into it, but it's not just dismiss out of hand that if the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go 14-3 again this upcoming year, they're going to have to weigh more heavily on their offense. They're going to have to outscore teams. They're going to have to win shootouts. There's going to be a drop-off.
Bijan. That's where Bijan comes in.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not going down the Bijan road. I'm going down a different road. Yesterday, the New York Jets acquired Nicole Hardman via free agency, who has been a very productive receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, he's got a pretty good guy named Mahomes throwing the football to him, but has been a pure slot guy, but has that speed that can take the top off a defense. And, oh, by the way, good return guy as well, something the Philadelphia Eagles kind of lacked last year. He got a 1-year deal with the ability, got some incentives in there to raise it up to $6 million. The Eagles could improve over Quez Watkins as their third wide receiver. If you want to really put together an offense that's scary, make him your slot receiver between Devontae and AJ. That would fill the void of, hey, we're going to outscore you week in and week out. We're putting up 38. We think our defense can hold you to 35. should the Eagles have thought about investing more money in offense, more money in wide receiver? It would kind of tip the scales a little bit, but that could have been huge. Did they miss out on Nicole Hardman?
I've seen no evidence. Mecole, and I like Mecole, but I like him as a player. How much of that is Andy Reid? To me, he's a manufacturer touch guy. And I've seen no evidence that this coaching staff can use a manufacturer touch player or wants to use a manufacturer touch player. They don't use a lot of motion. They're not going to jet sweep people a ton. We talked about they're at the bottom of the league with motion 2 consecutive years now. So I don't know if they're going to utilize that. Now, maybe it's because they haven't had one. And maybe if they got one, they would use it.
Jalen Reagor wasn't a good manufacturer.
No, he was not. And that's not their fault. But so from that perspective, I have no evidence that he would be a good fit. And he's not going to run routes. Like he's not Julian Edelman. He's not going to beat people in the slot with option routes and cutting on dimes and doing that stuff. So I don't necessarily, we talk about fit all the time, which is not, and I think the offensive staff more than the defensive staff has proven to be malleable, starting with the quarterback, and maybe they would be that with a receiver. So I can't say not, but just from the fact that they barely use motion as it is, I can't imagine they're going to get Mecole Hardman and say, all right, let's turn into San Francisco. Now put them with Kyle Shanahan, I'll say, damn, yeah, give me that. Let me see. They don't need them because they have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and everybody else. But Andy Reid, yeah, he's going to utilize them. I don't know. I don't see it as a fit here.
Yeah, I think given a chance, he can be a guy who can get behind defenses even more than he has.
Oh, he can run, but even in Kansas City. His yards per catch were down. I think as a rookie, I'll look it up real quick. As a rookie, he didn't play that much. He didn't get that many. So he's at 20.7 as a rookie. And he just ran by people, sort of like Quez, like a one-trick pony. But in recent years, it's 11.7, 11.9. So, as they tried to, and he got injured, but
11 not bad. 20 is off the charts, but 11's not bad into itself.
And now it's more because like I said, he's a manufactured touch player. He's not running by people. They're utilizing him more, or they were utilizing more, right, giving him the football near the line of scrimmage. I just don't see the Eagles doing that. I mean, they haven't done it. So but they haven't had that player either.
Correct. And I don't think Mecole Hardman will come in here and be that player, but I think he could be good enough to just get back to getting open over the top and making big plays. Kansas City didn't use him because they were too worried about the controlled touches. I just like the kid, and I think he's going to have a big year, whether it's from Brett Favre or whoever else is the Jet quarterback. It better be
Brett Favre. We'll go Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. Thank you for correcting me. Jody McDonald, John McMullen.
Brett could probably still play. He could probably still sling it if he's not in jail.
Here are my choices: Brett Favre, Zach Wilson. Oh, I'll take Brett Favre. Thank you very much. At his advanced age. Mac and Mac here with you on Birds 365. We see in our waiting room one of our faves from Bleeding Green Nation and the Eye on the Enemy podcast, John Stolness. Haven't had him on since free agency kicked in. We'll ask him to get up to date with his opinions on the new look Eagle roster next year on Birds 365.